All right, let's unlock some ancient knowledge. This is Jennifer and Thomas. Today, we're diving deep into ancient Egyptian gods and goddesses. You sent over a ton of material. Fascinating stuff.
It is amazing the sheer number of gods and goddesses they had.
Right. Not just a few. We're talking over 100. It's mind-blowing. But don't worry, we're not just going to list them all out.
Yeah, no.
We're going to pull out the cool stuff, the intriguing, the must-know facts, the kind of stuff that'll make you the trivia champ, for sure.
Absolutely. But beyond trivia, it gives us a glimpse into their culture, their beliefs, their anxieties even, and their relationship with nature.
Okay, so to navigate this pantheon, we're going thematic, not alphabetical. First up, creation myths.
Right. Every culture has them, and Egypt's no exception. We've got Adam, self-created god, emerges from primordial chaos.
Oh, wow.
Is that creation ex nihilo, something from nothing, a concept that pops up, well, across cultures, really, throughout history.
Powerful concept. Like, how do you even wrap your head around that? But then later in Egyptian mythology, there's this shift. The rise of Amun-Ra, the king of the gods.
Yeah, fusion, right. Amun, god of air, and Ra, the sun god, becomes this dominant force.
So it's Atum, self-created, then this more complex deity, Amun-Ra.
Interesting evolution. Might reflect how Egyptian society itself was changing, becoming more centralized.
The gods mirroring the political landscape. Fascinating. And then there's Khnum, the ram-headed god. He literally molds humans from clay.
On a potter's wheel, no less.
I love that imagery. Divine craftsman, shaping destiny like a potter.
Makes you think, right? Did the ancient Egyptians see their own lives as being molded by the gods?
That is an intriguing question. And this connection to the physical world, it's so evident when we look at the Nile deities.
Of course, the Nile, their lifeline, had to have its own set of gods.
Absolutely. You've got Happy, god of the annual flood, the life-giving aspect.
The flood was essential, so Happy, crucial deity.
And then Anukit, goddess linked to the source of the Nile.
Shows how important it was to them to understand where this vital resource came from, not just the practical aspect.
Right. They wanted to know its origins, the source. But of course, the Nile wasn't always benevolent.
Could be destructive, too. Which brings us to Sobek, the crocodile god.
Sobek, the dual nature provider, but potential destroyer.
Like the crocodiles themselves, feared and revered. Duality, it's woven throughout their pantheon.
And that duality plays out even more when we enter the underworld.
Ah, yes, the underworld. Anubis, the jackal-headed god, guides souls through the afterlife. A psychopomp, they call him.
Much nicer than Emmet, the devourer of souls. Terrifying.
Yeah.
Crocodile head, lion body, hippopotamus hindquarters. Talk about fearsome.
And then you have Baba, fertility god, with, well, let's just say striking imagery.
Okay, no need to get too graphic, but point is, even in the underworld, life, fertility, it was acknowledged.
Exactly. Full spectrum of existence, even beyond death. And speaking of spectrums, we can't forget the goddesses.
Powerful goddesses. Oh, yes. Ancient Egypt had some incredible female deities. Isis, the most famous, right? Motherhood, magic, healing.
And Hathor, with her cow horns and sun disk. Love, music, joy.
But it wasn't all nurturing and gentle. There's Sekhmet, the lion-headed goddess of war.
Could be both, destructive and protective.
Definitely not someone you want to cross. And Api, a lesser-known goddess, part human, part hippo, part lion, part crocodile.
Her imagery, it speaks volumes. Multifaceted nature of these goddesses, power, influence, just like their male counterparts.
You know, going through this, I'm seeing how much symbolism is packed into their depictions. It's like a visual language they're using.
Absolutely. Masters of visual storytelling. Take Aker, for instance, god of the earth and horizon. 2 lions back to back.
With the sun disk between them?
Sometimes, yes. The lions are yesterday and today, guarding the underworld, making sure the sun passes safely through the night.
Wow.
A brilliant visual metaphor. Cyclical nature of time, transition between realms.
And there's Apa, god of eternity, holding palm stems, symbols of long life.
Right. They're using these cues, these visuals, to help people understand the complex concepts.
Like a visual language everyone could grasp. And then you have these blends of cultures like Anubis, a fusion of Hermes, Greek god, and Anubis, Egyptian.
Cultural exchange happening even back then.
Yeah.
The Levant, the Eastern Mediterranean, it was a melting pot of cultures.
Influences in Egyptian mythology, too. We can't forget the deities with those unique forms. Tutu, the lion-human hybrid. Multiple crowns.
Tutu's appearance probably served a specific purpose. Ward off evil, most likely.
They went all out with their god designs. And then figures like Min, the name might ring a bell, because of the Minotaur.
Interesting how these ancient figures still have an impact, on our imaginations today. Enduring power of mythology.
This is just scratching the surface. We've only explored a fraction of the deities in this material.
There's so much more.
But I'm already seeing those recurring themes you mentioned. Creation, the Nile, the underworld, powerful female figures.
And those themes, they're key to understanding their worldview. Fears, hopes, their relationship with the cosmos.
So as we go deeper into this pantheon, what should our listener be paying attention to? What are the so what insights?
That's a great question. Think about how these gods, their roles, their prominence, shifted over time.
Okay, so Egyptian civilization, it spanned millennia, their beliefs changed, right?
Exactly. Looking at which gods were popular when tells us about how Egyptian society was changing. And think about the connections between the deities' domains and the practical concerns of, everyday Egyptians.
What can those connections tell us about their values, fears, hopes? Like, what were everyday conversations about these gods like?
Another great question. Did they have their go-to gods? Based on their jobs, personal struggles, were all gods equally important? It's something scholars are still debating today. That's why studying these pantheons is so rewarding. It's not just ancient history. It's about understanding humanity across time.
We've covered a lot already, but we're just getting started with this deep dive. Stay tuned, folks. There's so much more to explore.
So much depth to this pantheon. It's really speaks to the complexity of their worldview.
It does. But even with so many gods and goddesses, I keep noticing these themes: creation, the Nile, the underworld, powerful female figures. Like, these were the core concerns of ancient Egyptian life, reflected in their divine beings.
Exactly. That's one of the keys to understanding any mythology, really. Look for those patterns. Ask yourself, what do these tell us about the people who created these stories?
It's a giant puzzle, and each deity's a piece. Speaking of pieces, you mentioned earlier the prominence of certain gods shifted over time. Can you give us an example?
Certainly. Let's look at Amun-Ra. Started as a fairly minor god, local god, but during the New Kingdom period, he ascends, becomes the king of the gods.
Wow, serious promotion. What drove that shift?
Well, it reflects the growing political power of Thebes. That's where Amun was mainly worshipped. Thebes becomes the capital. Amun's status rises. He even gets merged with Ra, the sun god, further solidifying his power.
So the gods, their destinies intertwined with the political landscape. It makes you wonder, did the ancient Egyptians see their pharaohs as almost godlike?
That's a great point. Divine kingship, very strong in ancient Egypt. Pharaoh's the intermediary, the gods and the people. His authority divinely ordained.
So Amun-Ra's rise wasn't just religious, it was political too. Makes you wonder, how much did those in power influence which gods were favored?
Definitely something to consider. This idea of gods being connected to everyday life, we see it with other deities too. Agriculture, for example, central concern for ancient Egyptians.
Well, we talked about Happy and the flood, but there are other gods tied to agriculture, right?
Absolutely. So Osiris, primarily known as the god of the afterlife, but also deeply connected to agriculture, specifically the cycle of death and rebirth, planting and harvesting.
Ah, that makes sense. Egyptians, so tied to the land. Cyclical nature of life.
Precisely. Osiris's death and resurrection. It wasn't just about the promise of eternal life. It symbolized the land's renewal, crucial for their survival.
Even in death, Osiris was ensuring the well-being of the living. Makes you wonder, how did they navigate this vast pantheon on a personal level? Did they choose specific deities to focus on, based on their needs, professions?
That's what scholars are still trying to figure out. Likely individuals had personal patron deities, appealed to them for specific needs. A farmer praying to Osiris for a good harvest. A woman giving birth invoking Taweret, the hippopotamus goddess of childbirth, for protection.
Like a divine support system tailored to you. But you mentioned this awe for the whole pantheon, too.
Yes. Even while having their favorites, I think there was still this sense of recognizing the power, the influence of all these beings. This interconnected web of divine forces governing the world.
Makes me think about some lesser-known deities, like Ash, the god of oases. Not as famous as Osiris, but still represented something vital to the Egyptians.
Absolutely. Oases, they were vital sources of water in the desert. And vineyards, those represented abundance, prosperity. Ash, he embodies these essential elements of life.
I love how his depictions are so varied. Sometimes a lion's head, sometimes a vulture, hawk, even a snake. Like, he embodies the diversity of life found in the oases. Speaking of diverse representations, we can't forget Bastet, the cat goddess.
Bastet. Always a popular one. And it's easy to see why. Not just cats, but fertility, childbirth, protection of the home.
Cats, revered in ancient Egypt. I mean, who doesn't love cats?
Exactly. But it wasn't just about companionship. They were practical too, kept pests under control, essential for protecting crops. So Bastet, she's both the practical benefits and the spiritual aspects. Feline grace, independence.
Ultimate cool cat. Powerful, protective, but independent, playful. Now, slightly different note. I'm remembering Bess, the dwarf god, looks ready to party.
Ah, yes, Bess.
Yeah.
Music, dance, merriment, good times. But also protective, especially of pregnant women, children.
So the fun uncle, who's also a great bodyguard.
Exactly. That unusual appearance, almost cartoonish, thought to be deliberately humorous, maybe to confuse evil spirits.
Sense of humor, even when dealing with the supernatural. Which brings us back to the underworld. We talked about some major players, but there are so many others down there.
A complex realm, with its own rules, its own hierarchy. Each deity, a specific role to play in the journey of the deceased.
Like Kibishet, serpent goddess, purifies the soul. Love that her name means she who cools.
Perfect name. Cleansing, preparing the soul. Egyptians believed the deceased had to be purified before entering the next realm.
Like a spiritual cleansing. Then there's Kibui, another serpent deity, guards the entrance. Often depicted with a human head, adds to the intimidation factor.
Gatekeepers, ensuring that only those deemed worthy could pass into the realm of the dead.
Like the bouncer of the underworld.
Exactly. And then you have Sebiumucker, his title, He Who Restrains the Gods.
He who restrains the gods. Wow, that's quite the title. What did he actually do?
Guarded the entrances, protected the deceased on their journey. Order, control, even in this realm of the dead.
Even in death, rules, hierarchy.
Precisely. Speaks to their sense of order, cosmic balance. A concept that, well, permeated everything. And when we talk about order and balance, can't forget Mot, the goddess who embodies those very concepts.
Mot, yeah, seems like a key figure. We talked about her feather weighing of the heart ceremony, but she's so much more than that, right?
Absolutely. Essential to the Egyptian worldview. Mot is truth, justice, order, the very foundation of their society, their cosmic harmony.
I've seen the weighing of the heart ceremony depicted in their art. Powerful image. The heart symbolizing the soul's essence, judged against Mot's feather. What happened if the heart was heavier?
Bad news for the deceased. Heavier heart meant they hadn't lived a life according to Mot and, well, devoured by Amet.
Amet. Talk about high stakes. So Mot's not just this abstract concept, but actual consequences.
Exactly. Shows how deeply intertwined their deities were with life. Not distant figures, they influenced everything. Choices, the very structure of society.
Like they embody the hopes, the fears, the aspirations of an entire civilization.
Precisely. That's why studying them is so rewarding. Connecting with those who lived thousands of years ago, glimpsing into their world, seeing how their beliefs shaped their lives.
Even though these gods are specific to Egypt, they touch on themes that, well, they resonate across cultures. This desire for order, the fear of chaos, yearning for a meaningful afterlife. Questions we've all been asking for centuries.
You're absolutely right. That's the power of mythology. It gives us a way to explore those fundamental questions through stories, imagery that go beyond cultural boundaries.
It's like a shared language of the human spirit.
Exactly. Even though we might not believe in these gods literally, they still speak to us, reminding us of our shared humanity, the power of storytelling.
A reflection of ourselves, our fears, our hopes, trying to make sense of the world.
Beautifully said. And that's why, even after all these centuries, they continue to fascinate us, offering this glimpse into a world that's both ancient and eternally relevant.
I completely agree. And as we keep exploring, I'm noticing something. Even the most powerful gods, they're often depicted with a sense of, well, humanity.
It's true. Not portrayed as distant, perfect beings. They have flaws, mistakes, emotions, just like us.
Like Horus, the god of kingship. Powerful, but he loses an eye in that battle with Seth. That vulnerability, it makes him more relatable.
Absolutely. Reminds us that even the mightiest beings face adversity, overcome challenges, humanizes them, makes the stories resonate more.
And Isis, powerful sorceress, but her grief for Osiris, it feels so real, so profound. She goes to incredible lengths to bring him back.
Testament to her love, her determination. Even goddesses experience deep sadness, but those emotions can be a source of strength too.
Even Sekhmet, the lion-headed goddess of war, has a compassionate side. There's that myth where she's sent to punish humanity. Her bloodlust gets out of control. The other gods have to trick her into drinking beer mixed with red ochre to calm her down.
That's certainly one way to deal with a rampaging goddess, but it also shows that even Sekhmet, with all her power, wasn't completely uncontrollable. There was a way to appeal to her, bring her back.
It highlights the complexity of her character. Even the most fearsome deities could be influenced by compassion, wisdom.
Exactly. It speaks to that balance, light and darkness, creation and destruction,
Yeah.
woven throughout their mythology.
It reminds us that even in the seemingly perfect world of the gods, there was nuance, complexity, those shades of gray that make the story so compelling.
Precisely. And those complexities are what make them so fascinating, so enduringly relevant.
Couldn't agree more. As we talk about these individual deities, I'm just struck by the sheer creativity, the imagination that went into creating this whole pantheon.
It's truly remarkable. Animal-headed figures, cosmic beings, representing forces of nature, a world teeming with wonder.
Like Nut, the sky goddess. I love how she's depicted, this vast, star-studded woman arched over the earth, image of cosmic embrace.
Perfectly reflects their belief, the sky, the body of a goddess, protecting, nurturing the world below. And then you have Shu, the god of air, who separates Nut from Geb, the earth god.
Right. Geb lying beneath Nut, supporting her, creating the space for life to flourish.
Together, a cosmic balancing act, maintaining order in the universe. Shu prevents the sky from colliding with the earth, holding the cosmos in balance.
A cosmic couple working together, ensuring creation continues. This image of Shu separating Nut and Geb, it speaks to the importance of balance, order, in the Egyptian worldview, right?
Absolutely. They believe everything in the cosmos interconnected. Maintaining harmony was essential. It's a concept we see again and again in their myths, the roles of their gods.
Beautiful concept. This vast, interconnected web of existence, the smallest creatures to the grandest cosmic forces all working in harmony. Reminds us that even though our world often feels chaotic, unpredictable, there's still an underlying order of beauty if we look for it.
Beautifully said. It speaks to the enduring power of mythology, to offer us hope, inspiration, a sense of connection to something larger than ourselves.
As we continue this deep dive, I'm noticing something else. The way they used composite deities to express complex ideas.
Ah, yes. Composite deities, combining attributes of two or more gods, represent specific concepts, regions, aspects of the divine.
Like Sobek-Ra, a fusion of Sobek, the crocodile god, and Ra, the sun god. What does that combination represent?
Sobek-Ra, he embodies the power of the Nile, Andi the sun, shows how important both forces were to Egypt. The Nile, the life-giving water, the sun, light and warmth, essential for life itself.
Acknowledging the interconnectedness, how these forces work together to sustain life. I'm also thinking about Tassakar-Osiris, combining three powerful gods.
Tassakar-Osiris, fascinating. He fuses Ta, creator god, Sokar, god of the Memphis necropolis, and Osiris, underworld resurrection.
Like the triple threat deity.
You could say that.
Hmm.
Represents the cyclical nature of life, death, and rebirth, the creative, transformative, regenerative aspects of the divine.
Capturing the entirety of existence in one powerful figure.
Exactly. These composite deities highlight how flexible, how adaptable the Egyptians were in their understanding of the divine, synthesizing different aspects, creating new gods, reflecting their evolving beliefs.
And that flexibility, key to why their pantheon remains so vibrant, enduring. It was alive, constantly being woven, rewoven, reflecting their changing needs, understanding of the world.
Beautifully said. That tapestry continues to fascinate, inspire us. A window into a world rich with symbolism, creativity, profound spiritual depth.
Completely agree. Speaking of fascinating figures, we can't forget the animal-headed gods. They're probably the most iconic feature of the Egyptian pantheon.
You're right. Instantly recognizable, like Anubis, the jackal-headed god of mummification.
Anubis, right, the psychopomp, guide of souls, leading the deceased through the afterlife.
The jackal, often seen near tombs, scavenging, became associated with death, the underworld. Anubis, with his jackal head, embodies those associations. Protector, guide for the souls on their way to the afterlife.
And then there's Horus, falcon-headed god of kingship. What led to that association?
Well, think about the falcon. Soaring high, keen eyesight, qualities associated with royalty.
So Horus embodies those qualities. Strength, power, divine authority, all essential for a pharaoh. And of course, can't forget Bastet, cat-headed goddess, protector of the home, fertility, childbirth.
Bastet, great example of how they saw the divine reflected in the everyday. Cats with their grace, independence, keeping homes free of pests, they were highly valued. Best, it embodies all those positive qualities.
Powerful, protective, but playful, independent. And then Thoth, ibis-headed god of wisdom, writing, magic.
Thoth, often shown with a scroll, a pen, right? Symbolizing his role as a scribe, keeper of knowledge.
And why the ibis head?
Ibis has that long, curved beak. Egyptians saw it as resembling the crescent moon, symbol of knowledge, wisdom.
Drawing inspiration from the natural world to create these deities, the animal-headed gods, testament to their reverence for nature, their belief that the divine permeated all aspects of creation. Makes you wonder, did they see animals as sacred, not just something to be used?
That's a great point. They certainly saw qualities in animals worthy of respect, even reverence. Many animals were considered sacred, their behavior a source of wisdom, insight.
Beautiful, inspiring concepts, this interconnectedness, humanity and the animal kingdom, spiritual and material realms. Speaking of inspiring concepts, some deities had domains a bit more unique, like Seshat, goddess of writing, architecture, astronomy.
Oh, Seshat embodies those intellectual pursuits, highly valued in ancient Egypt.
She's often shown wearing a leopard skin headdress with a seven-pointed star, symbolizing her connection to knowledge, the cosmos, I'm guessing.
Exactly. Her role was to assist the pharaoh, maintaining order, justice. Her knowledge of astronomy, architecture, vital for building temples, other structures.
Like the divine architect, ensuring everything was built in accordance with, cosmic principles. Makes you wonder, did they consider architecture a sacred art, a way of connecting with the divine?
It's certainly possible. They saw a deeper meaning in the design, construction of their temples, not just places of worship, but meant to reflect the order, harmony of the cosmos.
Like they were bringing heaven down to earth, creating a space to connect with the divine.
It's a beautiful thought. Speaks to the depth, richness of their spiritual beliefs, how they saw the divine reflected in everything.
We've talked about individual deities, but I'm struck by the complexity of the whole pantheon.
Incredibly intricate. Didn't have just one creation myth, one set of beliefs about the afterlife. Their understanding was multi-layered, this huge range of gods and goddesses, each with their own unique attributes, stories.
Like each deity represents a piece of this massive cosmic puzzle.
That's a great way to put it. And that complexity reflects the depth of their culture, their willingness to embrace nuance, to see the divine in everything, not a rigid system, a living tapestry, constantly evolving, adapting.
That adaptability, that's one of the reasons why it remains so vibrant, enduring. For thousands of years, it wasn't afraid to change, to incorporate new ideas, reflecting the changing needs, understandings of the people.
Exactly. It's a reminder that our own understanding of the divine is always evolving too. No one right way to understand the universe. Multiple perspectives, interpretations. Embracing that complexity can enrich our understanding of the world, our place in it.
Speaking of evolving understanding, I'm remembering how the roles, the prominence of certain deities shifted over time, reflecting those changes you mentioned.
Right. The pantheon wasn't static. It changed and adapted along with their civilization.
Like Amun-Ra, starts as a relatively minor god, but ascends to king of the gods during the New Kingdom.
Exactly. His rise coincides with the growing power of Thebes, his main cult center. Thebes rises in political importance. So does Amun-Ra.
Like their fates were intertwined, reflecting the close connection between religious beliefs, political power.
Absolutely. Shows how dynamic religious beliefs can be, adapting, evolving to reflect changing realities.
So some gods rose in prominence. Were there others who experienced a decline in popularity?
Yes. Take Seth, god of chaos, storms, violence. He was initially powerful, respected. Over time, his association with chaos, disruption, led to him being demonized, ultimately portrayed as a villain in some myths.
Even the gods could fall from grace. Makes you wonder, were there pharaohs who tried to, downplay Seth, elevate other gods to fit their own agendas?
It's certainly a possibility. Highlights how religious beliefs can be used to reinforce social norms, justify actions.
A reminder that even the realm of the gods isn't immune to human concerns. But even as some deities fell out of favor, others remained popular, continuing to capture their imaginations. Any other lesser-known figures whose stories stand out to you?
Well, Neith is interesting. Goddess of war, hunting, weaving, wisdom. Quite the diverse portfolio.
That is a lot, even for a goddess. I've seen her depicted with that red crown of Lower Egypt, wielding a bow and arrows. She definitely has a warrior vibe.
Absolutely. But also associated with creation myths. Some traditions even credit her with creating the world, weaving it into being.
That's a beautiful image. A cosmic weaver, creating the very fabric of reality.
Highlights her creative power, and that connection to weaving, it links her to the domestic realm too. Importance of women's work, creativity in Egyptian society.
She's both a fierce warrior and the creative artist, the protector and the provider. Powerful representation of the feminine divine.
Exactly. And she's not alone. We've talked about Isis, Hathor, Sekhmet, but there are so many others. Strength, wisdom, creative power.
Testament to the importance of women in their society. And speaking of important figures, we can't forget Ma'at, the goddess of truth, justice, cosmic order. Her role in the weighing of the heart is so important, but I'm guessing she represents so much more than just judgment.
Absolutely. Ma'at is foundational. She embodies those core principles. Truth, justice, order, essential for maintaining balance, harmony, in both the human and the cosmic realms.
It's like she's the moral compass of the universe, guiding individuals, society as a whole, towards righteousness.
Precisely. And that connection, individual actions and cosmic order, it's so fascinating. They believe that by living in accordance with Ma'at, they were contributing to the stability, the well-being of the universe itself.
Powerful concept. Our actions, even the small ones, can have a ripple effect, impacting not just ourselves, but the world around us.
And it speaks to the interconnectedness of all things. That sense of interconnectedness, we see it reflected throughout their mythology.
It's like their whole belief system was built on this idea that everything's linked. Web of relationships connecting humans, the natural world, and the divine.
Exactly. That understanding shaped everything. Their worldview, their ethics, their relationship with the cosmos.
It's a perspective we could use today. In a world that often feels fragmented, disconnected, remembering that interconnectedness could help us live more harmoniously with each other and the planet.
Absolutely. And that's one of the many reasons why studying these ancient cultures like the Egyptians is so enriching. It can offer new perspectives, challenge our assumptions, help us see the world in new ways.
Speaking of seeing the world in new ways, I'm remembering their creation myths. They're so different from, the ones we're familiar with in Western cultures.
Absolutely. Completely different perspective on the origins of the universe, humanity's place in it.
Like the myth where Adam emerges from the primordial waters, creates the world through self-stimulation. Not exactly the Garden of Eden.
Not quite, but it's a powerful image. Creation arising from a state of unity, potentiality. And then there's the Ogdoad, a group of 8 primordial deities, representing those fundamental forces of chaos that existed before creation.
The Ogdoad? Don't think we've talked about them yet.
They're fascinating. They embody concepts like darkness, water, infinity, nothingness, those formless, chaotic energies that existed before the ordered world.
Like the raw materials from which creation emerged. Starting to see how they incorporated duality, balance, even into their creation myths.
Exactly. Creation wasn't just a straightforward act. It was a process of bringing order out of chaos, balancing opposing forces to create a harmonious whole.
And that idea of balance, so central to their worldview, the universe as this delicate ecosystem where everything needs to be in equilibrium to function.
Precisely. Maintaining that equilibrium was seen as a shared responsibility, both for humans and the gods.
It's a reminder that we're all part of something larger than ourselves. Our actions have consequences that ripple outward, affecting the balance of the whole.
Exactly. And that sense of responsibility, something we can all learn from. Recognizing our interconnectedness with the world. Striving to live in a way that promotes harmony, balance, rather than disruption, chaos.
Speaking of disruption and chaos, let's talk about Seth, the god we mentioned earlier, who experienced a fall from grace.
Seth. Complex figure, often portrayed as a villain, but he was initially powerful, respected, associated with storms, the desert, foreign lands.
So why the shift?
Well, as Egyptian society became more centralized, focused on order, stability, Seth's association with chaos became increasingly problematic.
Like they needed a scapegoat for the negative aspects of life. And Seth, with his chaos, fit the bill.
It's certainly a possibility. His story highlights how religious beliefs can evolve over time to reflect changing social political realities.
A reminder that even the realm of the gods, it's not immune to the shifts, transformations that shape human society.
Exactly. That's what makes studying ancient religion so fascinating. It allows us to glimpse into the minds and hearts of those who lived thousands of years ago, understand their hopes, fears, see how their beliefs both shaped and were shaped by the world around them.
As we explore these stories, I'm realizing how much the Egyptian gods feel like extensions of the natural world. Not just these abstract beings, they're rooted in the landscapes, the animals, the very essence of Egypt.
You're absolutely right. They saw the divine reflected in the natural world around them. That's evident in how they depicted their deities.
Like Hapi, the god of the Nile, often depicted as this plump, androgynous figure with pendulous breasts, symbolizing the river's fertility, abundance.
Happy embodies the life-giving power of the Nile, which was the very source of life for them. His imagery reflects their dependence on the river, their understanding of its vital role in sustaining their civilization.
And then there's Nut, the sky goddess, shown arched over the earth, body covered in stars, beautiful image of the cosmos, a nurturing presence, sheltering, embracing the world below.
And beneath Nut you have Geb, the earth god, often depicted lying down, his body forming the ground on which humans live.
It's like a cosmic cradle for humanity. Nut the heavens, Geb the earth.
Exactly. Reflecting the Egyptian belief that the universe was a balanced, harmonious system, all parts working together for the greater good.
Beautiful concept. This interconnectedness, heaven and earth, divine and natural world, reminds us that even though we may live in a world that often feels separated from the divine, there's still a deep connection between the spiritual and the material.
And that connection is something to be cherished, honored. The Egyptians understood the sacredness of the natural world. They saw the divine reflected in its beauty, its power. It's a perspective we could all learn from today.
Completely agree. Speaking of perspectives we can learn from, I'm remembering those composite deities. Such a creative way of expressing complex ideas.
They are. They highlight their ability to synthesize different aspects of the divine, creating new gods who reflected their evolving understanding of the cosmos.
Like Sobek-Ra, who combined Sobek, the crocodile god, with Ra, the sun god.
Exactly. He represents the combined power of the Nile and the sun, two forces that were absolutely essential for life in Egypt.
And then there's Ta-Sokar-Osiris, a fusion of Ta, the creator god, Sokar, god of the Memphis necropolis, and Osiris, god of the underworld, resurrection.
Aker-Osiris, he embodies the entire cycle, life, death, and rebirth. Powerful representation of the cyclical nature of existence, the transformative power of the divine.
Like they condense the essence of three gods into a single figure. Represents the entirety of creation, destruction, renewal. These composite deities showcase the flexibility, the adaptability of Egyptian religious thought.
Absolutely. They weren't afraid to combine different aspects of the divine, to create new gods who reflected their evolving understanding of the cosmos. That openness to new ideas, that's one of the reasons their pantheon remained so vibrant, so dynamic for thousands of years.
Like their belief system was a living, breathing organism, constantly adapting, evolving to meet the needs of the people. Makes it all the more fascinating to study.
Couldn't agree more. There's always something new to discover, some new layer of meaning to uncover. The Egyptian pantheon is a treasure trove of insights into the human spirit, and it continues to resonate with us even today.
And speaking of resonating with us today, I think it's time we delve into one of the most captivating aspects of their mythology, the journey of the soul after death.
Ah, yes, the afterlife. Endless fascination. They were, well, obsessed with death. What lay beyond this life?
It's understandable, isn't it? Death, the ultimate mystery. And the Egyptians, with their rituals, their beliefs about the afterlife, they were trying to make sense of it.
Absolutely. They believed death wasn't the end. A transition to another realm, another state of being. Invested a lot of time, energy, preparing for that transition.
We've talked about the weighing of the heart, the deceased's heart judged against Mot's feather, but what happened after that? What did they believe that journey entailed?
Well, if the heart was deemed worthy, the soul would embark on this perilous journey through the underworld, facing challenges, obstacles along the way.
What kinds of challenges?
Might encounter monstrous creatures, navigate treacherous landscapes, even answer riddles posed by the gods. Cosmic obstacle course to test the soul's worthiness, knowledge.
So not just a smooth ride to paradise?
Not at all. A journey filled with peril. The deceased needed to be well prepared to navigate it successfully.
And that's where the Book of the Dead comes in, right?
Oh.
Right, the Book of the Dead, like the ultimate guidebook for navigating the afterlife.
Exactly. Filled with spells, prayers, hymns, instructions on how to, navigate those challenges, ensure safe passage.
So like a cheat sheet for the underworld.
You could say that. Shows how important preparation was, even for death. Right knowledge, the right rituals, crucial for a successful afterlife.
Makes sense. But say you make it through all that, the underworld challenges, what then? What awaited the worthy soul?
Well, the ultimate goal, the destination, was a place called the Field of Reeds. Imagine, abundant fields, a true paradise. The blessed dead could live eternally, free from suffering, toil.
So it wasn't just about escaping punishment. It was about achieving this state of bliss.
Exactly, a reward for a life well lived, aligned with Mot's principles: truth, justice, order. And this belief, it likely influenced how they lived their lives, knowing their actions had
It's
consequences.
the cosmic karma system, encouraging virtue. But with all this talk of judgment, the afterlife, it's striking how human the gods feel. They're not just these distant, all-powerful beings.
You're right, they have quirks, flaws, emotions. They feel real.
Take Horus, god of kingship, powerful, but he lost an eye, right? In the
Right.
battle with Seth, makes him more relatable, don't you think?
Absolutely. Even a god can have a bad day. And Isis, all that magical power, she's devastated when Osiris is lost. Her grief, her determination to bring him back, you really feel it.
Shows that the divine, it wasn't this cold, emotionless force. Gods could love, rage, feel joy, sorrow. That's what makes the story so powerful.
They feel human. And because of that, we connect with them on a deeper level.
Speaking of connecting, as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one thing you want our listeners thinking about? The big question.
I think it's this. Given the sheer scale of this pantheon, how did everyday Egyptians navigate it? Did they have their personal favorites? Deities they connected with based on their own lives, their hopes, fears? Or was it more about the overall mystery, the awe of this vast divine web surrounding them?
That's a great question to ponder, because even after all this, the knowledge we've uncovered, there's still that personal element. The faith, the individual experience, remains a mystery. We can study the facts, but the true heart of belief, that's something deeply personal, ultimately unknowable.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's the beauty of it. It invites each of us to explore our own relationship with the divine, find those connections that resonate with us personally.
So to our listeners, if this deep dive has sparked your curiosity, keep exploring, keep researching, keep delving deeper into this fascinating world. There's so much more to discover.
Who knows, maybe in exploring this ancient pantheon, you'll discover something new about yourself, about your own beliefs, the enduring power of myth, storytelling to connect us across cultures, across time.
Until next time, keep seeking, keep questioning, and keep diving deep into the vast ocean of knowledge.